Hey guys, it's LEGO Boys E3. Today I'm going to show you how I solve my barrel cubes. So this is going to be kind of a tutorial, more of like a walkthrough of how I solve all of my barrel cubes from 2x2 all the way on up. And so I'm going to start off with the 3x3 and just kind of show you the process of doing it. It's pretty similar to the standard 3x3, but I'm going to show you the special things that I do in order to fix the things that come along with it being a barrel. And so obviously if you're going to be solving one of these, you're going to need to know how to solve a standard 3x3, and like if you're doing the 4x4, you're going to need to know how to do the 4x4, 2x2, 2x2, 7x7, 7x7, because it's basically just that puzzle with a couple of extra difficult things. But yeah, we'll just start off with the 3x3 here, and really the only main differences come in the cross stage. So really the only difference between this and a normal 3x3 is these centers have orientation, so you can see it's slightly curved a little bit. That center right there, it's curved a little bit to the side. If you had it curved this way, it would be wrong, and it would not be in the right place. So like, if you had it like this, that doesn't line up right. It's a little bit hard to see on camera, but if you have one in real life, it's really easy to tell. So that's wrong. Basically what I do for every single edge piece that I put in the cross is I just line it up with its respective center first, and then I move it up to the white side like that. It's pretty much exactly how I solve a picture cube, if you've seen my tutorial on that. So I line up these parts and put that up to the top. Obviously it doesn't matter what orientation this white center is in. So this one, we'll line it up, just kind of fix it like that if it's wrong, and move it on up. And then this one, take it out of this spot, move it, fix it, and bring it on up. From here, you can basically do whatever method you want to do. I'll just do some F2L, because why not? Put that pair in, and you just kind of pair things up just like you would normally do. Just like that. If you want to do the beginner's method, if you don't know F2L, that's easy enough too. You can just put the corner piece in, and then find the edge piece, and do the basic algorithm. It's basically just exactly like a normal 3x3. Just don't do any super fancy algorithms that like move all the center pieces around, because that might mess things up. Now last layer is also pretty similar, but there are a couple of things you want to watch out for. So I'm just going to do kind of basic beginner's method from here. Just not doing any fancy algorithms like fancy OLLs, things like that. And then once you get to a point like this, instead of like rotating these corners and doing a PLL like I would normally do, I basically just go back to the beginner's method. So what that beginner's method for me is doing this, doing a soon. Basically, you just want to do all algorithms that will not mess up the centers. And if you want to figure out what algorithms don't mess up the centers, pretty much just do it on this cube and see if it gets messed up. And so at this point, I can see where these pieces are, do a simple Nicholas algorithm like that, and then now I can just rotate it like the basic beginner's method algorithm. There are a couple of algorithms that you should definitely avoid, like doing G-perms and some of those fancy PLLs, and even doing like this standard U-perm. You see it'll mess up the center right here. I know there are a couple of beginner's methods that do use algorithms like that, so you basically just want to avoid it. If you don't really know what to do, then go ahead and just look at a basic beginner's method tutorial just like mine, and just do those basic algorithms, and you should be fine. But yeah, that is the 3x3. It's pretty much exactly the same as a normal 3x3, except for the cross. You do have to do a couple special things. 2x2, I'm not really going to go over this. You basically just solve it exactly like a 2x2. There's nothing weird that can happen because there's no centers that can be rotated wrong. So we can do whatever method we really want here. We can just use like some Ortega or whatever. I like to start with the flat side because it makes it a little bit simpler. But you can start with the other sides if you really want to have a challenge or something like that. And then just do the Ortega case. Or you can do a beginner's method case. You can do it exactly like a 3x3. Just whatever. It's just a 2x2. Nothing will get messed up if you do it the wrong way. Now onto the 4x4. This is where things get a little bit more tricky, but I'm basically just going to show you the centers for this, and then you can kind of figure out how to do 5x5 on up from this. Now I'm just going to be doing some basic reduction because it's easiest that way. And so normally what you would do is you'd start with either white or yellow, one of the ones that's flat. That's what would make most sense to most people, but I'm actually not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to start with all the other ones except white and yellow. And so what I'm going to do is I'll start with something like blue. I already have some of them already in place. So I have this line. You have to make sure the lines line up, like in the correct orientation. I'll find another blue piece. Here's one right here. Line these up. It looks like that's correct, except when we put these two together, that's actually wrong. And so what we can do is just move this around. And so now they're both together in a way that they can line up together. It's kind of confusing just explaining it like this, but once you see it on a cube, it'll make sense. Same thing with these two. Find the other pair. Here's them right here. We can bring these together without messing the other stuff we have up, just exactly like you would normally solve a 4x4, and then bring that up together. Now here's the two of them. Now we want to make the green one right here. Pretty simple. Again, move those bars up, bring this over. It's basically just mostly intuitive pairing up of pieces, and so I did it a little bit differently this time, the way that I paired these two up, but it still works. They still go together. Sometimes they just don't pair up exactly right, and so you just have to break them apart and put them together a different way. And then now once we got these 4 ones around here, we can do the white and yellow centers just like you would normally do the last 2 centers, except instead of doing a single turn every time, you do a double turn. And so double turn like that, and back up, and then we figure out which side needs to be white. So I know this side needs to be white because these 2 colors right here, and then here we go. So yeah, it's basically just quick walkthrough of how to do that. It's pretty simple. If you're solving a 4x4 barrel cube, that should make sense to most of you. And then from here, just do standard edge pairing until you get to the 3x3 stage. And then once you get to 3x3 stage, you can do the same thing that I did earlier with just the standard 3x3. It's basically just like a 3x3 barrel now. Just make sure all the centers get lined up. Like this one, we need to rotate it, just like that. And now this one, put that in and bring it up, and then you can just continue on to the last layer. And then if you get parity, you can basically just do the standard algorithms. It actually will move the pieces around on the centers around a little bit, but in this case it actually doesn't matter because it's actually moving the diagonal pieces across from each other, which doesn't actually do anything. I believe the PL parity does that. However, it will do this to your cube, and so what I basically do if I have something like this is I just fix it. I just kind of redo those 2 F2L pairs, just like this. And then here we go, like I was just talking about, if you have PLL parity, the standard algorithm does actually mess with the centers a little bit. Like on a super cube, you would have to be a little bit careful about that. But on this cube, it actually is just fine, and it ends up working out. And then for the 5x5, the same thing pretty much goes for the solve. You basically just use those same basic concepts of doing these in bars and making sure they're all lined up in the correct direction. Make sure you're not doing it wrong, like having a bar like this where it's not quite right. Just make sure you're lining up the correct pieces. But yeah, basically you just keep going around the cube, lining things up like this while not messing up what you already have, just like that. Basic concepts are the same as on a 5x5, and then you can keep going around with this center, this center, this center, and then finally do white and yellow last. And that will look something like this with finishing up all of these, and then you just finish up the last 2 centers like you would normally do, except now they're across from each other. Just do the same thing, that, and then line them up. And then from here on out, you just do edge pairing and then 3x3 stage exactly like you did a 4x4 and pretty much exactly like you would do on a standard 5x5. So yeah, there's a 5x5. And finally for the 7x7, I'm not even going to scramble this up just because it takes way too long to solve. But it's the same basic concept. You can either do rows like this, just lining up one at a time, making sure all the pieces are the correct piece to go in that place. Or you can do rows like this. It doesn't really matter. Just kind of line them all up at a time. Do these ones first, then do the last 2 centers, and then do edge pairing, 3x3 stage, and that's how you do it. So pretty much if you learn how to solve these 3 barrels, you can pretty much solve any barrel that you'd ever want to, 5x5, 7x7, anything in between there, or on up. So yeah, it's pretty much just as simple as solving it like a 3x3 with that extra little cross step. And then when you're pairing up the centers on a bigger cube, you just need to do these 4 first and then these 2 last. So yeah, it's almost exactly the same as the original puzzle. So if there is anything in particular that you need help with on a barrel, then I'd be happy to help you. Anything like in particular with moving these pieces around when you're solving a 4x4 or anything like that, then go ahead and leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. But yeah, that's basically my barrel cube walkthrough tutorial thing, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!